All right, I'm going to call to order the January 28th meeting of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee meeting. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we move on, I just want to note the passing of Terry Bell Mosto. So she was a first grade teacher for Whitman-Hanson and also a school psychologist. She passed away a few weeks ago, so I just want to note her passing and thank her for her service to the district. Do we have any public comment? I don't know.
That would be a negative.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
Can you just remind everybody that...
Oh, right, yes, thank you, okay. We are being recorded by WHCA and broadcast. Thank you, Ms. Blackman. Okay. With no public comment, we're going to move on to our student advisory report. So, folks, line on up.
Hello. We are so glad to be back up at the podium and cannot wait to present what we plan to do during the last semester of the school year.
One of our goals this year is to revamp our school's courtyard. Right now, it has so much potential to become an interactive space. It just needs a group to bring it together. We have reached out to the maintenance coordinator, Mike Driscoll, for support and approval of our plans. Some of our ideas include restoring the tables and chairs already in the courtyard, as well as adding a new bench or two.
While this was originally our idea, we're reaching out to other clubs in the high school to also collaborate. We hope to invite Key Club to plant flowers around the courtyard and throughout the school campus. This is an event we've done in the past few years successfully, so we're hoping to do this in the future as well. Additionally, we are hoping to continue offering win opportunities in the courtyard as the spring season approaches, allowing teachers and students to spend outside time during the school day.
Finally, we have begun planning our school cleanup. This was incredibly successful last year as students were able to collect 12 full trash bags from around campus through their effort and dedication. This cleanup's tentative date is March 20th, which is the first day of spring, and we will have an update on its successes in early April. Any questions?
Yeah. What time do you guys usually do the cleanup?
So we plan it so that would be on a half day,
Okay.
and from like 10:30 to 11:30, just one community service hour.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you,
folks
guys.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have a superintendent update from Dr. Marcus.
Just brief, I wanted to say a giant thank you to all of the crews in both towns, our facilities team, SJ Services, who were all out over the last couple of days cleaning up from the massive snowstorm. They did a Herculean job, and I can't say thank you enough for their hard work and the team approach. I think sometimes people think that the school day call is, one individual sitting in the bedroom looking out a window. It's really a team effort. So Mr. Farrow set up a group text with about probably 12 people on it, the DPWs, fire, police from both towns, our folks, busing, and we talk and make sure that that is what we're looking at in the two towns is correct. I'm also on a listserv with superintendents across the South Shore, and we're in constant communication prior to those storms, figuring out who's thinking what and what they're doing. It's a funny thing that it used to be that when one superintendent went, that everybody followed suit. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Bad school Tuesday.
Yeah. So some folks really sort of went out and made some decisions. Everybody kind of then goes on their own, but you really want to look at the neighboring towns and have good conversations with them. So we have really nice relationships with all of the towns that connect us. And then the key piece was really the folks out doing the cleanup and letting us know when it was safe to return. So again, a huge thank you to everybody for their hard work.
All right. So next up, we have the informational items. The first is going to be an MCAS report. Oh.
Good evening. The presentation details the overall 2025 MCAS academic performance for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. We're using DESI's data and comparing local student achievement levels with statewide averages for us. Fortunate this evening to be joined by 3 of our 5 curriculum coordinators, Amy Fleck from Secondary ELA, Deb Caruso, Secondary Math, and Bob Davidson, Secondary Social Studies. Teresa Scott, Secondary Science, and Shelley Farrow, Elementary Coordinator, had prior commitments, and they're unable to attend this evening.
So,
Amy?
Yep, I was going to say, so first up, we will hear from our ELA coordinator about our ELA data.
Oh, yeah. My one job. Good evening. First of all, I'm going to be taking you through just our overviews from 3 to 8, as well as our 10th grade from last spring. Before even diving into the data, I do think it's important for us to also recognize there no longer is a graduation requirement, and that does impact the data, and I will kind of show you. But we were still able to glean important things from it and lessons. So for 3 to 8, if you would take a look at the graph, that's probably the easiest way to see. Our district performance, we align very, very closely with the state. We are consistent in all of our foundational skills across the grades 3 to 8. And if you look, 41% between exceeding and meeting. We're the same in both. The state was 7% in exceeding, we were 4%, but it averages out. We were both like very in line together. Our lower 17% students who did not meet, in the state was at 20. So across the board, just to give you a snapshot, foundational skills in reading, our vocabulary, our language acquisition, figurative language, academic vocabulary, craft and structure, we were all very, very strong. The one area of growth consistent, and this is not just 3 to 8, it's also in 10th grade, is our writing. It's an area that we can continuously work on to improve. I would say, and if you want to move to the next slide as well, Nikki, because it is literally almost the same data. And for me, this tells us our teachers are working together, our students are receiving the same kind of instruction across the board. And we're seeing, again, 10th grade, our strengths, the reading domains, our language domains, very strong across the board, with, again, the area for growth being writing. And when you think about writing for our students, they're writing multiple essays, 2 of which count. One is typically a matrix. And now the idea of the stamina for writing when it doesn't count, we did see, as I looked through some of them, because I can look at student essays, you see that there's less effort in some of them. This does not mean we don't take this data seriously. We still look at this across the board, and we're currently, what it tells us is what we were doing through our intervention after COVID, the use of the various high-quality instructional materials through HMH, through iReady, and now at the high school, we're using Common Lit assessment series. Another Common Lit 360 is another high-quality instructional material that is also free to us, which is fantastic. So we're using resources for that during our interventions in WIN. So we're making so much progress, and now we're looking towards working to align our secondary writing, building upon the new strategies, the SRSD strategies, that the elementary has coordinated through the last 2 years. I know Shelley got a grant, has been doing great work. I had a chance to see a 5th grade class, Miss O'Brien's class, phenomenal. Our students, how engaged and excited they were. But this, it's not a canned program. It's teaching kids really discipline in writing, how to self-regulate, how to self-talk. So it's a great confidence builder because writing isn't easy. And we talk about that all the time. It's a skill, and if you don't practice it, and in this day and age, there's so many other things that you can rely on to help you, or maybe use them maybe a little too much. So it's really something all teachers are working on.
We're already doing PD on it at the secondary level, and we're looking to see how do we best work with what the kids are coming into so we can have consistent academic language to help them with their transition. So we have so many good things out there. We have, great strengths, but our areas that we're going to work on, we're already starting. So that's just a little snapshot into ELA.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Deb?
Next, we'll hear from Deb about our math.
Good evening. So I'm here to talk to you all about your favorite subject, math. So if you look at the math grades 3 to 8, you can see again, much like ELA, it's very similar to the state as far as the breakdowns of meeting, exceeding, etc. So that's a pattern that also continues into 10th grade as well. You'll see that. Again, the exceeding, a little lower than the state. Something that I've done in the middle school this year to address that is again, we like to use the data as much as we can and look for ways that we can use it to inform instruction. So for our PD in October, I led the middle school teachers and their spec co-teachers through small group differentiated instruction PD, where we talked about low lift, high leverage strategies with which to take that tier 1 classroom and get that intervention and support real time each day. So again, sometimes that differentiated instruction can sound like I'm reinventing the wheel 3 different lessons in a day, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm hopeful if you speak to any of the middle school teachers, they'll tell you that they have tried it, they've used a lot of the little strategies and things that are, again, low lift, because our teachers are overwhelmed. We've implemented curriculum over the last few years, and it's a lot to take on, and they have done an amazing job, both at the middle school and the high school, bringing in high-quality instructional materials. It's not an easy process. It's not an easy lift, especially if it's not something that you've kind of done before or seen before, and if it's, teachers don't necessarily teach in that way all of the time, so it can be a big change. So kudos to all of middle and high school teachers for that. But again, so one way we're working to address that meeting and exceeding, kind of pushing those kids a little more towards that blue, is to try to get that real-time instructional support. And so we're going to continue to work on strategies and things as we move forward. With our 10th grade, again, similar sorts of things, but what I like to do with the data is look vertically to see if there are trends and things that across the board we need to work on as a district, as well as each teacher and each grade level gets their own item analysis. Here are the specific things for that particular course, but now let's look district-wide and let's see how we can inform our PD and our monthly meetings, PLCs, things like that. So kind of the trend here, when I did the comprehensive review of the data across all grade levels, it reveals a consistent trend. While our students demonstrate strong procedural fluency, the how, there is a critical need to bolster the conceptual understanding, the why. When these two pillars support one another, they produce what's called mathematical flexibility. And since the MCAS often asks questions in ways that students haven't seen in a textbook, flexibility is what helps them to persevere. Without understanding, procedures are easily forgotten or misapplied, and without fluency, the cognitive load of simple calculations prevents students from tackling complex, higher order problems. Flexibility is the ultimate goal because it allows students to pivot when a chosen strategy doesn't work, turning your rigid memorization into adaptive problem solving. Tethering student understanding to tangible concrete models helps students bridge the gap between doing math and understanding math. Many of the areas of focus can be addressed by leveraging multiple representations, which is, funny enough, our focus for next week's PD, which can be physical manipulatives, items such as base 10 blocks, counters, algebra tiles, and also visual frameworks like area models, number lines, graphs, and data tables. By vertically integrating these tools, it builds a continuous connected mathematical foundation that allows students to solve complex, unfamiliar problems with confidence, and that's really the goal.
Thank you.
So a new area that was tested this year was our civics in 8th grade.
Good evening, everybody. So social studies is a little bit different. We just don't have the data that some of the other disciplines do because we haven't had an MCAS exam until last year. It was the first year, given in 1 grade, 8th grade, and civics that's tested. So there's certainly no patterns or trends or anything like that over time, just a little snapshot of data. What we did see from what was available was that Whitman-Hanson students performed right at the state average, with 39% of students meeting or exceeding expectations. One of the things that stood out as a strength was civic knowledge, which is good. It's a civics class. And one of the areas for growth was constructed responses. And what it looks like in social studies is most typically students using primary, secondary sources, writing essays on it and providing evidence for a thesis statement. Very typical. And to be fair, that was an area of growth statewide. I think that was the lowest score for Whitman-Hanson, but across the state as well. So like I said, not much data, 1 year, 1 test, first time around, but that's what we see.
And one of the things we talked about too, that overall this requirement came in the year that all the conversation around MCAS was, it's not required, so.
Yeah, the timing was good.
So, and then stepping in, subbing in for our science, George is gonna take over.
I thought most qualified to talk tonight because in 1993 I did teach science, so I was a very good science teacher. I also gave the first ever MCAS in history at the time, somewhere around 1995 or 1996. But science, grades 5 and 8. So Whitman-Hanson outperformed the state average in these grades, with 45% of students meeting or exceeding expectations compared to the state's 42%. While the exceeding percentage was lower, 4% versus 8%, Whitman-Hanson had a significantly higher percentage of students meeting expectations, 41 to 34. So obviously you can see that we are exceeding the state average and we have most of our students in either meeting or exceeding, so that's always a good thing. When it comes to the high school biology exam, I think one thing we have to understand is that these were juniors. They took this as freshmen. So that's how they reported. So these scores are the last year of when the MCAS actually counted as a graduation requirement. So having said that, they did very well comparatively. 61% of Whitman-Hanson students met or exceeded expectations compared to just 46% statewide. Whitman-Hanson outperformed the state in both exceeding 13 to 11 and meeting 48 to 35. So when you look at all of this, science is trending in the right direction from elementary through the high school level. We use mystery science at the elementary school along with different informational text in grade 5, which is the tested year, and then we move into an integrated program in grade 8. If you don't know, middle school uses the Next Gen Science Standards, and it's a, when I say integrated program, students receive physical, life, and chemical sciences all 3 years in 6th, 7th, and 8th. The goal is to spiral, the goal is to compound, and get ready for the 8th grade test. When you get to high school biology, we stop all that, and we give you a 1-year standalone course, and we go from there. But that's the recap of science.
So, and one of the things that you'll see, this is in the packet, it'll be available online, is the trends over time. As the coordinators pointed out, you can see hereditary in the middle school was, in 5th grade and 8th grade, was a strength that continued into the high school. Like our strengths, because of all the vertical alignment and the work that's been done amongst the coordinators, you're seeing the strengths carry through, which is great. Overall, our takeaways are that often Whitman-Hanson outperforms the state in terms of meeting. We definitely always, and this, George and I have done this presentation for a couple of years, our goal is always to move more of our students into exceeding. And we always, as a district, have lower numbers of students than the state in the not meeting. One area to note, and it came up on the 3 to 8 slide, are our English learners are requiring assistance at Whitman Middle School, and we are working with DESE. They have been a great partner already, and this is an area in which we will address and work on to make sure that our students who are taking tests in English when English is not their first language, are supported to be able to access this test as well. But it is important to note that they are expected to take the MCAS in English. It's not given in any other language. It's not allowed to be translated. And so it is difficult, but we are addressing it.
That wraps that.
Okay.
Okay.
If you have any questions.
Any
All right,
questions?
any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
All
much.
of you guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Jason, you get that?
All right, so next up, we have a discussion about the graduation costs.
So it's an informational item that a member had asked at the last meeting or prior meetings about what exactly is the cost of graduation. You have in your packet, right after the MCAS presentation, is the printout from Munis, and that shows the specific line items and all of the various things. It doesn't show exactly what is purchased, but you can see the vendors from whom we purchased a variety of materials to make graduation happen. That $32,529 figure doesn't include it's roughly about $9,000 of costs that the students take care of themselves. So caps and gowns, there's a bus, a parade bus, that are all, those costs are borne by the kids. So it's that 32 figure plus that cost that the students take care of, and then we're still looking, there are one or two other items that may also be added to this that we got from Ms. Horton earlier today, so I want to just verify that. So it's roughly $32,000 plus or minus about $3,000. Not plus, not minus, probably plus about $3,000.
So you say the students pay for their caps and gowns. What
Yes.
happens if they don't? Let's just say, you know what, I'm not buying mine.
Yeah.
Why should? Do they still graduate?
That, to be honest with you, I haven't,
That's like the one thing kids will pay.
I haven't ever encountered it.
All right. Just curious.
Yeah, I don't, no, that's a heck of a good question. Since the 8 years I've been doing this, I haven't encountered that at all.
How much is it?
It's part of the fees they pay us for their senior class.
Okay,
It's like-
all right, so they don't get this
It's like
little
part of dues. like-
email pay here,
No.
cap
it's
and
like
gown.
part of when
Okay.
you become a senior.
Got
just
it.
Rolls in.
Okay,
Good question.
makes it easier. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Ms. Blackman.
How many golf carts are we renting for each year? 'Cause that seems,
So we rent 10 golf carts, and we have 2 of our own. The 2 of our own are usually used by, one is used by the assistant principal and/or the administrative assistant for when they have to go back and forth and deal with the students as they line up. The other 10 the other one that's ours is used usually by SJ Services. The other 10 are used all over the campus, and they're used all over the campus to bring people not only to the field, but then bring people on the field. I think it's important that you realize just how big the area is and how many people it actually attracts. So the ability to have it outside in the post-COVID world, we do rent chairs, but then we're able to open up the rest of the field to whoever wants to bring lawn chairs, whoever has an extended family, because you don't have a ticket limit at this point in time. But getting to and from is very difficult. If you know and you've been to graduation, the lower grass opposite the tennis courts becomes a parking lot. You'll notice that, where are we? Right here, near the rock becomes a parking lot, and then every other piece is used. So it's usually used for not only handicap, but it's used to move people once they're inside on the grass to get to their seats. If they come up by the football field, it's also used to get people from the football field entrance around the track on the grass to get to their seats, because you're basically set up outside of the visitor's end zone off the track on the grass.
Ms. Niffen.
how many graduates, so this is from last year? Yes.
Last year,
How many graduates did we have?
It was just, I think it was just under 260.
yeah, I think it was like
Blackman?
The intercom, that's something we rent, or was that a one-time purchase? Like, there's a,
That was a one-time purchase because what we used to do was rent the whole sound system. And then what we did, we analyzed it with Jason and myself, and we said, how much would it be if we owned the system and would we save on rental? So what we've done about 3 years ago now, we just bought the system outright because it was easier and we can use it for many more things. If you've ever seen Jason or Mr. Daigle, Mr. Rowe, or the music people with their iPads where they control all of the sound from an iPad, that was part of the system that we bought. I think it's also important that when we talk about a cost-saving maneuver is that we do not pay our employees from technology any overtime. What we do is we flex their time in order that we can make sure that we recoup some savings in overtime. That does not happen with facilities by the sheer nature of their position and what takes place in order to set up, but from a standpoint of who we are and our technology department, we've cut back on those pieces.
so just as a follow-up, so the $3,806.68 for the intercom was a one-time purchase last year? And so that's not an expense that we'll have to incur again this year, right? And like the chair rental, is that something, we don't own chairs?
No, we don't own enough. What happens is, when graduation takes place, it's over a 2-week span. By the time you set up, you leave the stage up, and you move on from there. However, in part of that, we've also had to use a lot of our folding chairs, basically at the Wood Middle School, but in a lot of other areas. So the amount of time it would take our facilities department to rent the U-Hauls, to go get all the chairs, to move them all, it was much easier for anyone. The decision was made about 5 years ago that if we go outside, we're renting them, they get set up in the way we need to. It's all set up with this little robot that has all the lines proper, so you're dead center stage, and that's the decisions that have been made. When you look at a cost effectiveness for the fellas to do all the work and then gather the chairs and everything, the decision was made to rent the chairs, and that's what we do.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions about graduation costs?
I just have one.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There
No
are
worries.
two, the town of Whitman and town of Hanson. Police, right?
Police details.
Okay.
Yep.
And we do get the lights, I believe, when the lights come, the DPWs let us use the lights, but obviously it's a large presence of people, so we need police details.
Yep, go for it.
How many, so if you had 260 graduates last year, what? Thank you. What's your ballpark of how many people actually attended?
There were 2,400. So we set up 2,200 chairs. Of those 2,200 chairs, there's always people who bring their own, sit in the back. They might have little kids that run around, so it's much easier. But we always, since we moved outside 7 years ago or something, since we moved outside, we set up for 2,200, and then we come one day from there. But what's nice is no one's turned away.
Yep.
So if there's a family that's split, if there's whatever, it's like, there's no more of that. Just come and enjoy the night.
This graduating class is 258.
Okay.
Anything else on graduation costs? Okay. So next up, we have budget update.
Thank you so much. So in our continuing effort to provide as much information and detail as we can about our work on the budget for next year, so this is really focused on FY27, I had shared some information with the team in your packets and have amended that for our presentation that you have in front of you on paper here and on the screen tonight. Our budget process, typical budget process begins in September, October. At that time, superintendent will gather the leadership team together and start looking at projections, moving ahead, start talking about what kinds of things are important to the district, where's our strategic plan taking us, how do we move forward, while also sort of looking at the financial realities that may lie ahead. We started on January 5th this year, and have worked incredibly hard to piece together those same sorts of things in a very short amount of time. So our guidelines aren't really any different. First and foremost is to support the goals and the strategic plan of the district. Secondly, is to make sure that student learning and growth are at the center of all of our budget decisions. Our budget tells a story, and the story is what we value and what do we believe in, and at the center of that are the kids. So that's got to be our number one priority. A third guideline that we set is to ensure that this coming year doesn't carry forward any overspending from the past. So we've looked at some of the things that we were able to, what's happening?
Oh, we should be on slide.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
One back.
One back, Jason.
Sorry, I was supposed to give you a signal.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Thank you. And that's really a big thing, and that was, when I talked about on that very first meeting with you all, and in some of my early communications, it was really juggling those three budgets, looking at FY25 and finishing that out, getting all of the balance sheets and all of the data done for that. It's looking at this year, FY26, and making sure that we are going to land the ship correctly, right on the nose, that we are doing the kinds of things we need in order to make sure that any of the money that we had spent or that we planned to spend that wasn't budgeted is out, that there are other ways to then claw back additional funds by freezing various lines and things like that, which we've done to hold back on any spending so that 26 also lands appropriately. And finally, we want to ensure that the revenues and expenses are based on factual information and conservative estimates. So that's been a huge part of the learning process of looking at the FY26 budget and seeing that there were numbers in various lines that didn't necessarily correspond with reality. And so one of the crucial parts of the job in the last few weeks has been to go through line by line, look at what was projected for this year, try to understand where that number came from, look at the actual spending, look at the actual, people, if it's payroll lines, look at the people in those lines, and make sure that moving forward, we're not taking some number from the past and just adding 3% and rolling it forward. So we really tried to make sure that everything was based on being as factual as possible. And the conservative estimates really goes to, again, what I had talked about throughout is looking at what we're going to be able to present to the communities in a way that is going to make sense for proper funding. So in a very brief amount of time, we've had to develop an understanding of all the programs, look at every line, identify critical needs and specific areas for growth, try to find cost savings as much as we possibly can to restabilize both the short-term budget, but also next year and looking beyond. How do we make sure that next year is rock solid, stable, so that we don't repeat the kinds of things that have happened over the last couple of years? And finally, how do we do all that and maintain the educational strengths of this district and avoid student impacts as much as humanly possible? So some of the hard facts that we have to confront, that we have to deal with. The last couple of years, we're both overspent by about $1.5 million. And in order to move forward with a new budget for FY27, as I said, it can't simply be looking at last year's or this year's number and rolling something forward. That it took a lot more work in a short amount of time to really get down to exactly what it costs to run the district. So that was a critical piece. Secondly, is a recognition that the cuts that were made this year in November were painful and difficult, but when it comes right down to it, they didn't add up to the total amount of the deficit of what we actually needed in order to make this year whole. Next is that when you take all of the specific things that we went through line by line, that overall, to go from this year to next year is about $4.7 million of additional costs. It's a lot. It's not unusual. We're not alone. It costs a lot of money to take care of kids the way we do. Another important piece was that the payroll lines in the current budget, and I say inaccurate in the sense that not that they were wrong figures or whatever, but that through the work over the last couple of years, that's been aimed at being adjusted and fixed and cleaned up. It still wasn't quite right. And so we've done a lot more work to make sure that if there's a kindergarten teacher at the Duval Elementary, that the line for that teacher is actually connected to the right place. And while that seems sort of mundane, it's absolutely critical to be able to sort of move forward and say, does that line actually make sense with the number of sections we have or things like that? So that was really important. Next is looking at circuit breaker. We've talked a lot about circuit breaker. I've heard a lot over the last year or so. And I think one of the critical pieces about circuit breaker is that it's tight, that there's not a lot of wiggle room, but circuit breaker is something that we need to use in a forward-looking manner and not try to use it in any way backward-looking, looking at either this year or in the past. So the critical piece about circuit breaker is to make sure that what we're budgeting for as we move forward is actually going to make sense, is going to be fiscally sound, and will get us to supporting the kids who actually need that funding. The next two are basically sort of where we're at and what we're looking at in terms of how we sort of looked at the overall budget. The first is to address the issues of the past and minimize risk by stabilizing the budget. That's been sort of the theme all along. And some of the hard facts about what we're looking at moving forward, part of that $4.7 million are things like transportation, custodial, healthcare contracts, they're all coming up this year, and they're all at significantly higher percentages. When I've done budgets in the past, I sort of tend to use a model that I've adopted from other superintendents I've worked with, and it's kind of looking at a budget as in stages, sort of, what is the least sort of appropriate or the least kind of budget that you want to move into the next year with, which a lot of folks call a regressive budget, where you have the least amount of funding, the least amount of spending, and what would actually happen if you had to go with that. And there have been years, if you think about 2008 when we had that major crisis, there are years where you have to look at a budget in that way. There's a minimal sort of increase or a minimal improvement in the budget, and that's looking at sort of mandated positions, but also having to tighten up on a variety of different things. But it's moving the district in some way forward while making sacrifices for some of the positions that we have. And then a progressive budget, and there's another one beyond progressive called advanced, but we'll get there another day. The progressive budget really is something where you're now really thinking about how do we move forward. And if we were able to have a budget that was really solid, and built on additional funding and that kind of thing, what would we be able to do with that? So that's sort of this pyramid model of where we're at and the kinds of things that we've been working on. So as we've been looking at the budget line by line and going through all of the different areas, we're looking at a couple of areas of focus right now that are possibilities that I want to share with you. So there's the reduction side, and then there's the increases. On the reduction side, we are still, if we take the actual budget that we're working with this year, and I always put an asterisk beside that number that we got this year, the $64,564,000, because we know that wasn't right, that there were more costs, more spending than what that budget actually was able to provide. But when you look at that and you bring up the additional costs from all of the things that I just mentioned, and I'll talk about some more, it still leaves us about $1 million or so searching for additional funding. It's still not quite there in order for us to start next year in a stable place. So how do we do that? Well, we need to continue to look at some of the, both the payroll, the folks who are here, as well as the materials and supplies, the things that we use. We are looking at still the reduction of staffing in some way, and a focus has been, as I've said to this group and to our staff, is that the focus is really on administrative functions as much as we can, to avoid, as I said in the presentation, to avoid the classroom and avoid the kinds of things that affect our kids directly from one day to the next. And I can talk a little bit more specifically about that. But we need to find about 9 positions, which gets us about $1.2 million. And again, that focus will be away from the specific classroom areas. We also, in going through the 26 budget and looking at actual numbers, the team has identified about $250,000 in savings for curriculum supplies. That's a little less than half of what we need. But again, this is a year that we're trying to reset and be able to move forward. We also looked at every other line, non-payroll, non-salary line, and looked at actual numbers this year and how much we have spent so far, what we can project out, and each one of those lines, as much as we could, we tried to trim down where we saw the possibility of doing that, from very small things like $1,000 out of a $2,000 line, so something little like that, to very large kinds of reductions in places where we knew we were okay, and a lot of that was sort of materials and supplies kinds of things. And when you go through all of that, and by the way, there were also some lines that were higher. So there are some lines where we looked at the actual spending, and I can think of one line that was budgeted at $2,525, but the actual spending this year was a little more than $5,000. So that had to be adjusted, because it makes no sense to carry a figure that isn't accurate. So, but through all that, we were able to shave about $500,000. And then an important part, that's a difficult part, is that there's still about $600,000 in the cuts that we absorbed in November. And I call that part of the reduction because it was sort of carried forward in the budget that you see from last year. Those lines, those people were in that budget, and so by removing that, it actually lowers that overall cost by about $600,000. Difficult, but something that I consider sort of a continuation of the reduction. The increases you can see include payroll, health insurance, transportation, custodial contracts. Retirement insurance is a big one at $1.3 million. Special ed tuition costs increase, and that's not an increase in the number of kids. That's actually an increase in what we're being charged by the out-of-district placements. So a very large percentage across those programs. And then we have a new program that we would like to introduce that I can talk a little bit more about in detail at a later time. But basically, we have a number of students who are coming up from preschool into kindergarten who need some significant support. We also have students at the middle school who are coming up to the high school who also require significant support. So that $420,000 will fund those two new programs. And it's important to note, I say this a lot, that it takes money to save money. When it comes to programs like this, if we don't act proactively and make sure that we are providing the best opportunity in our schools where our kids can be in their home schools, then we're looking at much higher costs to have them go to programs elsewhere. So, this is a working conceptual idea, so please don't take this as sort of the final end-all, be-all. These are real numbers looking at the actual FY25, the actual FY26, and then how we're proposing to start making adjustments in those different areas. You see that they're broken up into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 9,000s, and they represent those different areas like administration, instruction, and so on. And you can see how some are up, some are down, and for the most part, that gets you to that $2.473 million operational difference. Remember that other number, the 4.7, is sort of everything all combined. So, but the operational difference in what we're actually going to look to the towns to support us with and Chapter 70, which is state funding, is built into that number. So at the moment, we are looking at about $67,037,509. Again, this is a working document, so things continue to sort of go up and down as we continue to refine each and every line, and we look at the actual costs of our payroll and the folks who are working with us. So as of today, if we take a conservative revenue estimate, and this is looking at the assessments that we get from Whitman-Hanson, it's looking at the actual, it's called a cherry sheet, which is the funding that the state actually tells us we're going to get, and we just got that last week, so that's up to date, so those are real numbers. And you sort of take that very conservative number, it's about $66.9 million. And right now, as you saw on that working document, the working budget that we have, we're at about $67,037,000. So it's about $200,000 difference. So that's not right. It's a little less. So we're close. We're closing in, and I think that we're doing really well in terms of being able to present a budget to you all next week prior to the public meeting that gets us different levels of what we could actually do. So at the lowest, possible level, which we're sort of looking at that very conservative estimate, it would be the kinds of things that I just showed you in terms of the staffing, reductions, a lot of the materials and supplies, holding back on some of those, and being able to get to a place where we're at that sort of very low conservative estimate of what we could see. However, it's important to note that that's the bottom, that's the lowest, sort of level, and that if we want to go back to look at, so Jason, if you don't mind going back to the slide with the pyramid on it. Yep. So that's what that 3.8% increase, and that 3.8 is 3.8% over last year's actual budget. So the difference between 64.5 and 67.037. So in order to get to that, it's about a 3.8% increase, and that's just comparing one budget with the next. If we even take small steps, not even getting up to that, that sort of progressive and being able to do some of the really bigger things, but even to get a little bit beyond this sort of minimal concept, we look at how much additional funding would it take and what kinds of requests we could make to the towns in order to not have to do some of the things that we're planning on right now with the very conservative estimate. So I think it's important to note that if you go back to the as of today slide, so it's important to note that this is a working document, we're still at it, and a critical piece of this whole this meeting and this update is to really hear from you all about your thoughts, your hopes, your wishes, and to make sure that then we go back as a leadership team and work on the things that you folks are going to share with us tonight. I just want to share two quick things. There was a discussion at the last meeting about class size, so I just wanted to make sure that folks saw this. They're whole numbers, so there are definitely places where it's like 20.3 or 21.6. So they're all, but they're basically roughly that. I wanted to also note where it says the high school, rather than try to sort of come up with some broad number, Dr. Jones did a really nice job and looked at all of the core sections of each of those subject areas, and we gave you the range of those courses. Obviously, the smaller numbers, like where you see science that there's a class of 11, that's going to be an AP kind of a class where there are very few students in it. So it's hard to say that the average in science is 28 divided by 11 or 28 plus 11 divided by 2. The courses range because of the kinds of courses that the students are taking. But I thought that was important. Folks talked about it at the last school committee meeting, and I wanted to make sure that you had that information. So our next steps are really tonight to hear your thoughts, questions, concerns, to take that feedback and continue to amend as needed. And I think the critical piece about that top bullet point is that this is an ongoing process. And we're not done until we get a vote from town meeting that tells us, okay, this is what it is. Or we get the final cherry sheet from the state that says, okay, this is what Chapter 70 really is, and so on. So this evolves, as you know. We're not done with some comments from tonight, and that's it. That the comments that we get tonight, we go back, we continue our analysis, we continue to look at our calculations, and then we continue to come back to you all with updated budget proposals. One of the tricky things about the position that we're in this year is that we're normally doing this in November and December. And we can't. We started when we had to. And so it's been a very compressed amount of time. And our public hearing would normally see the school committee having, 2 or 3 conversations about this before we're actually putting something out to the public. So it's a very compressed time. That's why I want to get as much information to you before that. and I want to hear your comments tonight, so that amend as needed means that we're continuing to work on this, probably even after the public presentation next week.
Okay. Mr. Boyce and then Ms. Stafford.
John, very nice, thank you very much. I just want to ask on the conservative revenue estimates. I know we know what, I always get confused if it's House 1 or House 2. I thought, I read House 2 today, but what that number is, 26 million, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
What did you use, and obviously it's not what we're assessing, but what did you use for town assessments?
We
Were
took,
they a certain percentage above?
yep. So we took, first of all, to your first point, we did take the cherry sheets. I'm not sure if it's House 1 or House 2 either, but it came out on January 22nd. And so what you see there, the 26,443 in that Chapter 70 money is a real number.
Okay.
Also subject to change, probably not going to go down, but subject to change. The estimates that we gave, the conservative estimates on the 2 town assessments were 5% of the town assessment, 5% on top of the town assessment. We looked at the budget presentation from Whitman and what Mary Beth Carter had put out there, and looking at the other departments, and looked at their recommendation about 5% as what to look at. So that's why I say it's a good conservative place to start.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Ms. Stafford?
Okay, a couple of things. Some concerns I have, and I know I've talked to you, John, about some of them. Over the past couple of years, people who have been on the committee know we have talked about the problems up in administration, that there haven't been enough people up there to do their job. And we were supposed to have a consultant to come in and tell us what else we needed. And it's been, over the years, positions have been combined, positions have been cut. And people were wondering during our budget meetings this fall, why do we have 2 assistant superintendents? And what people don't understand is the reason we had 2 is because when our director of technology left, we did not hire another director. When the director of facilities left, or was asked to leave, we did not hire a director. So somebody had to fill in. So it moved around what Mr. Farrow was doing to what Nikki's doing, and that type of thing. When I did some research, I looked at also, these are all papers of all different ones I looked at, everybody can see, places. And because everybody was saying everybody just has one assistant superintendent. But when you look, they also have an IT director, they have data managers, they have technology director. Some of them, I know Pembroke has assistant superintendent, IT director, and a director of student services. So these places all have directors of some. And if you're looking to cut back the administration even more, I have concerns about who's going to be doing this work. I mean, yes, the classroom is, of course, very important, but somebody's got to manage this big company of $67 million. And it's larger than a lot of the towns, our budget. And I really have concerns about the management of the $67 million, where we've had problems already, and now looking to reduce the size even more, because everybody says, oh, we're administrative top heavy. And I just want to make sure that people understand, no, we're not, because we didn't fill a lot of positions. And we have 1 administrative assistant. And all these places have an administrative assistant for the business manager. They also have assistant business managers, a business manager and an assistant. They have more than one, and we base, poor Jen is the only assistant we have, except for the SPED, because that's a different type of assistant. So I just want to express my concern, and I know we're looking at, and I, believe me, I appreciate what you've had to do in this real short amount of time, not even a month. But I just wanted to express my concern about that. And, you know, I know we want to do what's best for kids, but also managing what we have is doing what's best for kids too, to make sure we don't do what happened last time. And with less people, that's a concern to me. And I just want to express that concern. And I did want to give people the information that they thought we were so top-heavy when we truly are not, when you look at what other districts, and I'm talking, I did like Dayton Rehoboth, I did Silver Lake, I did Plymouth Carver, but then I did like Situate, Hanover, I did Freetown Lakeville, I did Plymouth, Randolph, Rockland, Abington, BR, East Bridgewater, you know, all those places. And when you look at what they have, it's actually more. And, you know, and looking at the numbers of students also, like Hanover has 2,600 students versus ours, and they have assistant superintendent, they have financial parts, they have the finance person, they have a director of student service, assistant director of student service, a director of behavior and mental health, a director of family and community engagement, a director of district communication, a director of technology, an assistant director of technology. So, you know, and they only have 2,600 students. So, you know, they don't have to do the facilities because they're a town. But the other places that were like us, a region, all have facilities directors too, which we don't. And you mentioned, you know, we had four people working basically this week on the snow. We have 4 left because the cuts have been in that program too, which that was a heavy burden, I think, for everybody. So I think what I'm trying to explain, I think, to everybody, including people out there, is we have cut back in the past, and it's showing, I think. I think it's really showing, and I think it really showed this year. But also the things that people don't see, and the people, like the 4 people that we had doing snow, you know, in facilities that would cut way back, that we haven't rehired because of trying to make a little cut here, a little cut there, that didn't, quote, didn't affect the students, but in a way it does because snow removal, et cetera, safety of the students. So I just wanted to express my concerns with that. That's my concern. No, not just, you know, because the classroom, you kind of get taken care of, I'm not worried about that.
Right.
And my other one concern is, again, about the number of paras that we have. And looking at, we're gonna have new programs, so we need, I understand.
Yep.
But I also wonder, because we put so many extras on last year, like it was like 30 above, I think, from the year before, and we did let a few go in November. Some have been called back for different reasons. But wondering if, are we relooking actuality of the needs of the students in the classroom?
Yes.
The actual needs of, you know, we have certainly students who need a one-on-one. We have certainly students, you know, smaller, you know, sped classes that have maybe 8 students, but need 2 paras at least with the teacher. So, you know, not even counting a one-on-one. So that's understandable, but I'm just looking at, say, our, quote, regular classroom, and, you know, the amount of paras that are necessary in there. Granted, that is not a lot of money, but it is some, and I expressed the concern last year when we knew, at the beginning of the year, when I looked at the increase that we had, and we didn't have a lot of new programs this year. So that was a concern to me too. So that's my 2 concerns. I spoke on
It's okay, no, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Do you mind if I address a couple of things? Is that all right? So I think when I think about, you know, I'm a guy that's been in a lot of districts. And so I've experienced all the different sort of designs of central office of administration. From one assistant soup to 2 assistant soups. I was one of 2 at one point, and the decision was made, well, we can't do that anymore. So it depends on where the needs are, what the focuses are, and who the people are in the district. That's oftentimes when you see a shift from a director of special ed to student services, it's because you're trying to shift from one specific thing to a more global thing where it might include nursing or school adjustment councils or things like that. So there are shifts, and when you do that, and you have a director of student people personnel services, and that suddenly becomes bigger, then you start looking at an assistant. So there are different configurations in different districts that we can look at, and I think it's important to do the research that you did. The toughest part for us is that we are on less than a shoestring right now, that I live in a town that is typically on a shoestring, and we do the very best, or they do the very best they can on the shoestring. We're not there right now. We are more, you saw the numbers, $2.4 million, and last year rolled into this year where we already made cuts. And we lost a fifth grade teacher, fifth grade teachers at all three schools. We then rolled into November, holy moly, and I lost 11 people at Duval. And I know I'm putting my principal hat on for a second, but it was really hard, and the amount of work that folks had to do to pick up and take care of those kids was unbelievable, and it remains that way. So going into this, if you said to me, no, we're going to be okay because we did all this work, and so now, we cut those positions and we're okay, and going into next year, we just need to be careful and do like a small increase. I'm on it. I got it. But we're not. Yeah. We're not. We're still in recovery mode, and we're trying to recover from the difficulties of the past, and we're going into next year. And I would love to say that we can maintain the level of administrative support that we have. I'd also love to be able to say that we can maintain the level of curricular support and the level of class size and all of that. But the reality is that if this district, if I take my mission seriously, and I do, very, very much so, I cannot, in good conscience, present a budget to you or to the two towns that puts us back in the same place that we were in, where we roll forward again with overspending or a promise that we're going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and we just can't. And so your points are incredibly well taken, and I really appreciate it. And if I was looking at a budget that didn't cause me, as the acting superintendent, to have to cut $1 million, there is no way that I would do what I'm doing.
And you understand that what I'm saying is the amount of work, concern for the employees, the amount of work that's going to be thrown on the people that already have a lot of work on their plate. And, because the employees are very important too. The students are, but our employees are too. Yeah. And that's, I just want to express my concern.
Absolutely, very much appreciated. And then on the second point about the paras, it is, we hear it all the time. Constant sort of concern about that. And I think it's incredibly valid when you just look at the numbers and you see 30 more, from one year to the next and things like that. It is absolutely disconcerting. Like, what is going on? How is that happening? And it's a really simple answer, which is that the kids who are coming to us now are so much more complex and so much more needy than they were even 5 years ago. And it is incredible. And so, again, my personal experience, both as a principal for 3 years prior to here and then the last 2 years here, the explosion of need and difficulty that kids are coming to us with these days is mind-blowing. And paras is one way to sort of approach the difficulty. Another is programs and how we can figure out better ways to support kids and revise and adjust and change programs. And then another is really looking at our daily practices and what we do to make sure that our kids are well supported. Here, I had a wonderful conversation with Stephanie about, so how do we really make sure that we're doing what we really can for every single kid? And I think that's been the challenge. So that when you look at that sort of basic number, and say, oh my God, it keeps going up, and here we go again, we're adding more sped teachers and paras. It has to be understood in the sense of, A, we need to take care of kids who are very different than they have been, than they were, and B, from a very basic kind of yucky financial way of looking at it, is that the more you spend to keep the kids here and support them locally, the less you're going to spend sending them to Rockland and Plymouth and somewhere else.
Yeah, well, you know, as a warrant person, I completely understand that, you know, and
Oh, yeah,
and I
you see it.
understand as the kids,
Right.
the needs have been increasingly. And,
Right.
you know, the need of when these kids move up, we
Mm-hmm.
have to move the program with them and keep the program where it is too, because you still have the kids moving up.
Right.
And that's understandable. I just, you know, it's just looking at some things and some comments that have been made in the past. That's
Sure.
all
Yeah.
why I was bringing.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate it. I'm glad you did.
I understand, as a grandmother with,
Yeah.
with special needs, and actually a young one coming up with special needs, I understand
Yeah.
completely.
And I want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Godino. She and I started at the same time. We come from a very similar sort of way of thinking, both of us having been superintendents and working with special education. And from day one, that's all we've talked about, either as a principal or as superintendent, is how do we figure that out in the best way.
And we certainly lost a lot with our interventionists gone.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Glenn?
Yeah, so I hear all the same complaints, Beth, about administration, why weren't there cuts in administration? And you hear all these job titles and it sounds, I don't know, a lot, you know, like redundant and all that. But I would think that now, speaking as like Joe, citizen taxpayer, it would be a lot easier to digest that whole thing is if you had the overall administrative budget,
Yeah.
you know, in a ratio to, like, budget to student, you know, break that down to whatever it is, $1,000 a student, $500 a student, and then put that with all, and then compare that to all the other towns. If you put that out there to the public, it would answer all those other questions, because right here, like, you know, assistant, budget, you know, these titles are, I don't know. As a regular person, they sound unnecessary, I guess. You know, but I know they are. Like this is a hard thing to run. I can only imagine. I wouldn't want to work. I wouldn't want the job. But to have it broken down like that, like administration to student, it costs us this much, but it costs Hanover that much, and it costs Pembroke that much. That would be really helpful. I'd like to see it for myself.
Sure, that's a great idea. Thanks.
Hillary?
I just had a question about the pyramid, or actually some phrasing. So in the minimal box, it says only mandated new positions. So I was wondering if you could talk about what those might be, because I think that you know, I'll take Glenn's verbiage there as Joe taxpayer, you know, you look at minimal, but then it would be where you're adding positions.
Sure.
How are they adding positions after the budget that we just had? Are you kidding me, right? I could probably tell you what those are, but could you explain what those mandated new positions could potentially be?
Sure. It's the special education programs that I talked about. So it's approximately 2 teachers and 6 paraprofessionals. So teacher, elementary teacher, and 3 paras for, I hesitate to say exactly what it is, but it's a sub-separate classroom at the elementary. And then there are kids that are moving up from the middle school, and there is no program here at the high school. Do I get that right?
Correct.
Thank you.
So
that's what that is.
Okay.
And when I say mandated, maybe that's not the right adjective, but we have to do that in order to support those kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really, I mean, I definitely understand, but I also think it's important for people who have students in the gen ed classrooms to understand that the money that we spend to support our special education population is also going to benefit the general education population students as well. And I think that is often lost in the narrative and in the conversation. But I see new positions, and I know that the communities are going to balk at that. So as specific as you can be for
Thank
when
you.
you're going to present, I think that that would be really important. And any data that you already have for current programs, I mean, I know that we've moved them up to the middle school.
Yep.
And they've been successful. I mean, just to anecdotally, my 2 kids who are in 6th and 7th grade participated in the unified basket game that they had at Hanson Middle, right?
Yeah.
So that it's new, right?
Yeah.
And those things are really awesome for the entire school community. But being as specific you can about the programs that we have, I mean, I think us sitting on the committee understand ASD and cases and things
Thank
like
you.
that. The general public doesn't understand, and they don't understand the needs that those students have, and they don't understand how much it costs if a student has to actually leave and go somewhere else.
Right.
I was looking up I think the landmark school, for some reason I was looking up the cost of a landmark school, and it doesn't actually say, or it's per student and it depends. And I think last year we had a conversation, and Glenn, you said something like you could get a year at Harvard for this much. Oh, he's not even here. I'm talking about him.
We were talking about you, Glenn.
Glenn.
So,
We made you superintendent while you were gone.
Let's do it. I can only show up on Wednesdays.
so I would just, my feedback or suggestion would
Yes.
be to really highlight the programs that we have and for special education. Maybe if there's a way that you could show the cost savings that they're already giving us. That's probably too much to do in a week. But just something so that people can understand it on a broader scale, because as much as we talk about, it's not something
Right.
that's generally understood.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Great feedback. Thank you.
TJ, before that, I just want to, just as a, I'll just highlight, so my son is in the ASD program at Whitman Middle, so he'll be one of the students coming up here next year. And I will just say that it was beyond my wildest dreams when he was 3 and he started here that he would still be here now. And it means so much to our family that he is here in the district still. And I think that it is, and this does sound like I'm gassing up my kid a little bit, but I know that at Whitman Middle, like the program they have there and the way that they integrate that program with the kids at the middle school, it means a lot to those other kids. I was here last week, meeting after school, and I had to bring Jamie with me. And then after we met with Dr. Marcus, he wanted to walk around the building because that's what he likes to do. And there were some 9th graders that were 8th graders last year that did Best Buddies with him. And we kept running into them. They kept saying hi to him, and it was just like the idea that has lingered with them beyond that point. So it is something that beyond, I mean, like, I think we all know on the committee how much these out-of-district placements cost to the district, but it also costs in terms of like what it means for the kids in the district too, that they, because I always think that kids like my son existed when I was in school. I never ever saw them.
Yeah.
I never ever saw them, and the idea that, people will say that, they'll look at this kind of like, that there's an increase in these kids. What caused the increase? There's not an increase in these kids. There's an increase in the visibility because they're now being part of our communities. And it just means so much to us personally that he is still here and that he's going to hopefully be able to come here next year too. So just a point of personal privilege. I just wanted to mention that. Mr. Rothy.
Thank you. Obviously, we want to. I know we've made a lot of cuts in the classroom over the last 18 months, whatever it is. But one of the other cuts we made last year was a $250,000 cut to the athletic budget.
Yes.
And if there's any way to take some of the financial pressure off the athletes without negatively impacting anything else, I think that the benefits to the athletic program would only serve to be expanded to as many people as possible. So if there's any way to restore some of that funding, it would be nice.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Hillary, Stephanie, do you have your hand up?
Yes.
Oh,
Hillary?
I think she did. I was just going to say, the new programs that you're going to be bringing up, I think are fabulous. And not only does it save money on us paying for those students to be tuitioned elsewhere, it saves us money on not having to transport them elsewhere.
True.
And there is a possibility maybe that we might be able to bring some money in if we have space in those programs to bring kids from other surrounding towns that might actually benefit us too. And I know we can't count on that right now.
Right.
But I do understand that that's something that we're definitely going to look at as being a possible,
Yes.
offset.
Yep. Thank you.
Hillary?
I just want to add to TJ talking about the athletic budget. So that, I would say, to me, not to me, there's been a lot of things, but I'm, my kids are older, and so I have more acquaintances who have kids who are in the high school, and the athletic budget and what it actually covers and what it actually costs and what the user fees. I know that before, things happened, we had, Bob Rogers maybe was supposed to give us like a projection of like, this is what the fall sports, this is what the user fees did.
Yeah.
But we haven't had that yet.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily asking for that next week, but if there is a way that the athletic budget can be explicitly teased out, because I think it's important, like when I say to families, well, no, the athletic budget never covered uniforms.
Right.
Right? Or the athletic budget never covered, it only covered buses and umpires or referees. Like what in the past it has covered, now what it's not. I mean, I feel like there was a conversation too that like, is it even covering coaching salaries? It's not.
Not great.
Correct,
Yeah.
right. So I think I think that unfortunately, sports is something that's going to get people, it'd be awesome if it was more about the curriculum and things like that, but we all know, we've been around long enough that those are the conversations that people, and I think now, we made these cuts prior to things happening in October and November, and now people are like, oh my gosh, like there's not money for this in the budget, what do you mean?
Right.
And I think that would also be something worthwhile in adding, and I don't know if that's for next week or maybe after next week to, just kind of tease that out a little bit, but to TJ's point, I think restoring some of that, because, and Rosemary says it a lot too, that's another tax on the families. Right, if you don't have kids who play sports, if you don't have kids in the school, it's not a matter. And so to it's just another unfair tax to the families, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, it's a point well taken.
Any other, Mr. Boyce?
I'm just going to make this quick, but it'll probably live with me throughout the rest of budget season. Class sizes. I know that can be a thing, and I know you did a great job with what the averages are here.
Yeah.
But not knowing like the number within each school of 4th grade at Duval or 3rd grade at Conley.
Okay.
Is there a way to manage that? Because I know, and once again, I'm not trying to be the person that says, hey, you started that whole conversation about
Right.
class sizes. I always appreciated what we've done and
Right.
where we've been and how we built it up to be able to be here with these kind of numbers. But I don't know
Yeah, I think what
sustainable that's going to be.
what I can do is even just using this chart is, there's that line right underneath.
Sure.
So where it says, for Duval, there's 19 in each of the 3rd grade sections, I can put that there's 3. And that's really important to note, as you say, because you look at that 19 and go, if you just cut one section, well, if you cut one section of 3,
Yeah.
and 19, you're going to end up with 26.
Yeah, that's
So,
that's
yeah,
where the
so I
math
think your
makes a
point is a
difference.
really good one, is you gotta know what those sections numbers actually are
Yeah.
to be able to not make a statement like, just, what about that? So, thank you, I will do that, appreciate it.
They'll still tag it on me as, he brought that up. Thank you.
Sure.
And one other thing,
Yes.
just as the, still our representative for Pilgrim Area Collaborative, I have seen I think it's been a dozen years, no, maybe just 10 years, that I have overseen as our contact with the group I serve, I've been surprised how low for many years our tuitions were. And now we're slowly creeping up. And we only have to just because of the cost of things. You know, we went through, there's no January report. I think they knew I had to get in preparation for the Zdeno Chara retirement number this month. So, you know, my schedule was busy, but we didn't, we'll be reconvening in February next week. And yeah, it just always, because we always seem to be one of the more lower cost collaboratives out there, but how it's just creeped up. And there's almost like no way you can avoid it. We've done a contract. We've kept an eye on this budget. I've been on that budget subcommittee for at least a half dozen years or so. But I just want to say that because, you know, it's always like, yes, it is costly, but hopefully on the other side, and you already know this, John, you're there serving and saying, okay, it's going to go up. It's something. Our budget goes up there.
Right.
It goes up here.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, anything else on this budget update before we move on? Okay. I don't know if this is a point of order or not, but just as a new chair, and this is the first time that we have had this many absences, I just want to clarify, maybe from Mr. Rolfe, who is kind of an expert on these things, and Ms. Stafford, who's a former chair, what is the threshold for, because we're going to be going into voting items.
6.
So it's 6? Okay, so it's still 6 without, all right, that's what I thought, I just want to double check. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going into action items.
Yeah, I think so. Well, for certain things, I shouldn't say 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the majority of the
The
people
majority of the
here.
voting members present.
Okay, is it?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
there are certain things that it's.
Right,
it's
like it was-
6, it doesn't, like budget.
Like
It
budget
has-
stuff,
It has
yeah.
to be 6.
Okay, all right.
Right, I don't think any of these things are.
Okay, so anything- this would be the majority of the 7 of us, okay.
We're covered either way.
Okay, all right.
I'm over here.
So,
Thank you for reminding us.
Good to see you.
okay. So I'm trying to be better about asking things I don't know instead of just kind of bluffing my way through it. So, all right, thank you, Beth. All right, so first of all, for the action items, we have, we're going to talk about preschool tuition.
Thank you. So this is, you got the memo from Dr. Godino to me, to you all, recommending that we adjust the preschool academy tuition rates. This basically just puts us in line with nearby districts. It also is small enough, it's about 15%, I think?
Yes.
And it's small enough that it's not a bank breaker. It also, they're still reasonable, quite reasonable compared to other districts around, and will also help with brass tacks in terms of the budget because it will increase the revolving account by about $25,000, which will help to offset some of the costs and be able to hang on to some of the things that we want to. Anything that I missed?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I just have a couple.
Oh, yep, sure. Hillary?
What is the length of the school year for the preschoolers? How many days?
72 days, I believe.
Okay, and then how many hours is half day and how many hours is full day?
9:30 to 12 is the morning session.
So
Or half day.
so 2.5 hours?
Yeah,
Okay,
same with the afternoon, will be 12:45 to 3:50.
okay, and then a full day is, How-
9:30 straight through to 3:50.
okay, so more like a regular school day. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Blackman?
I just want to point out, we did discuss the idea of increasing tuition last year, and we didn't. And I don't know why, because it was very much made clear that we are so far below, we're such a good price for what the students are getting, especially compared to the private schools around here, the private
Yep.
preschools and all of that. plus the students are actually getting that full integrated, you know, working with students who are not all the same. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful program. And I just want to clarify, in addition to the tuition, there is also money that comes in from the state for the students who are receiving services and things along
Yes.
those lines.
Yes.
So this isn't our sole purpose, sole means of income, but
Right.
it's definitely time to up the prices, so.
Any other questions or comments? All right, so we have a first and a second. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. Next on the action items is we have a discussion of the 26-27 academic school year calendar.
So you received in your packets a draft for next year's school year. There was, like everything else, a considerable amount of work that went into coming up with this draft. Many thanks to Jen Cruz for helping put this together, but there were lots of conversations primarily around the start date. The start date is really, was the big thing. It was either going to be Monday, August 24th, or the other option, the possibility was Monday, August 31st. When you ran the calendar for August 31st, you ended in June on the 16th or 17th of June, which gives you either 1 or 0 days for snow days, because the 18th is part of the Juneteenth holiday. So if you ended on the 17th and had 1 snow day, you would then go to the 21st as your last day. So that seemed like a really bad idea. Now, I have to tell you that I came into this discussion adamant that we start on the 31st. I need you to know that I've done a 180, and that I think the 24th makes so much more sense for so many reasons. And it actually is only number-wise, it's the same day and date or whatever as this year. It's just a day earlier by numbers, but it's the same as this year. So,
It's the 26th.
But it's not, because it's 2 weeks before Labor Day, right? So as a parent, and I would ask, and I would ask that we table this until we have more of our committee. Warren and Chris are parents of kids in the district. I think that their perspective, I can tell you that Pembroke isn't starting on the 24th because our teacher contract has it that we won't start until the Monday preceding Labor Day. I know Hanover is voting, or they were going to discuss their calendar tonight. I don't know other districts that have voted their calendars yet. Last year we voted our calendar on March 12th. It's January 28th. I think that it's really important that we consider what other districts are doing, other neighboring districts, for a plethora of reasons. And I could go into it, or I can wait until we have our full committee, or at least more of our committee members. As a parent, I have always said we start the Wednesday before Labor Day, as a parent. I don't care what the date is, it's because it's not the date, it's Labor Day as the thing, right? So now I worry that you're going to have families and staff who are saying, oh, we only start the Wednesday before Labor Day. Oh, it's late this year. Oh my God, I'm going back 2 weeks before Labor Day. Or I've got to get my kids ready 2 weeks before Labor Day. I spent money on that camp, or we did plan a trip just because it's later. I also think at the high school level, you're going to have issues with sports. The MIAA uses Labor Day as their date. So, except for football, all the other fall sports can't start before the 2 Mondays preceding Labor Day, which means fall sports will start concurrently with the first week of school. I think to a freshman coming into high school who's got to acclimate to starting school extra early, and then you have your tryouts after school, which I've heard some of the teams, and maybe our student rep can speak to this, 2 and 3 hour practices. You're also running the risk of not having a full day, so some of those teams might do early morning sessions to get out of the heat. That option's off the table now. I wonder, I just think there's more conversation, like, was the athletic director discussed about how it might impact sports? From a competitive standpoint too, with the sports, they're allowed 13 practices before the Friday before Labor Day. If we start on the 24th, that doesn't allow them to do that because of the school days. They can't have double sessions. So from a competitive standpoint, our student athletes are at a disadvantage to the Patriot League counterparts.
Gotcha.
People might not care about that. I just think that that's an important piece to consider. And I think June 10th is early. I mean, it is, we ran into Juneteenth a couple years ago, and I mean, I've been around long enough, and many people have been around long enough where we've pushed to June 24th, June 25th, like just, 2015, I'm sure we were in school.
June 30th,
right?
for me.
Right? And that kind of is what it is. I mean, I think too, I would like to have more of a conversation from people who are going to be affected, who have kids in the school. I just think 2 weeks before Labor Day is so early, and you're just pushing it. And I know on the back end there's things, but we're not a district. We don't give Good Friday off. We don't give Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur off. So we don't need these days. Whereas other districts who do give those are going to have to start this early. We don't have that. I do personally, for my own kids, I do like the soft landing that we traditionally have had. So the kids go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you have a long weekend. I can go get the school supplies for the kids. They can recoup. They've got the weekend to, when my kids were in kindergarten, they did their little brown bag, tell me about you. It's just a nice soft landing. This opening day, especially because we have to have September 1st off because of voting, is very disjointed. And I think as a parent, it's easier to find childcare until Wednesday, September 2nd, than it's going to be like, oh, I'm good. Oh, shoot, I got to find another day. You know what I mean? I don't know, maybe there's more. And maybe the people I've spoken to or will speak to have different perspectives, but I think putting that out there and getting that vibe, if you will, might serve us better.
Let's table it.
Well, I think we're not voting on it tonight anyways, correct?
Well, it's
just a
under
discussion.
action items, that's
Yeah.
why.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
No, but I think, and the more you're sort of sharing different things, the more I'm thinking outside the box. Why are we starting on a Monday?
We're not.
What-
Well, the staff
teachers.
is starting on a Monday.
Yeah, so is there something else that we can think of? So it's, I'm sort of thinking, we were thinking traditionally, well, this is when we usually do it. Well, maybe there's another way. So I appreciate that. So,
All right, any other discussion about this for now? Okay. All right, so next we'll turn to consent to approve interim business manager appointment. Dr. Marcus?
thank you very much. I worked in the Norton Public Schools prior to coming here. We had a really wonderful business manager. As I was scouring the world for a business manager for us over the last few weeks, I happened to call Matt and say, do you know of anybody? And he happened to say, oh, actually, I'm available. So it was a wonderful happenstance. I know Matt as a person who would come to my building and be kind and thoughtful and interact with the students in a really great way. He was also very helpful when I stomped my feet and said that I don't believe that the preschool revolving account is giving the preschool the money that it needs. Matt worked with me to figure out what actually was coming in and how we could better support the materials and supplies for that program. So I was thrilled that he was able to become an interim. I know Matt lives kind of far, and so he's offered to start off as an interim and give us until July 1st and see how things go. And I would ask for the committee's consent in supporting. Yeah, Mr. Wells, would you like to say a few words? Look how nice of a suit he has.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Matt Wells, for the Director of Finance and Operations position. I've been in public education in finance and operations since 2007. Prior to that, I worked for Yankee Candle Company. Enjoyed that job quite a bit, but I got very disgruntled with that work when the product became more important than people. So I had that transition in 2006, 2007, where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life that felt better about the work that I was doing. And I started at the Amherst Public Schools at that time. Amherst Pelham Regional was a great school district to work in. I enjoyed the 3 years I was there. During my third year, decided I needed to relocate to Eastern Massachusetts to be closer to family. So picked up everything, came out here for a vacation, re-enrolled my daughter in Marlborough Public Schools, and started a job search there as well. So I started with Concord-Carlisle Regional School District in 2010. I was there for 7 years. A great experience there, actually solidified more that I wanted to keep doing this. We built a new high school during the time that I was there, which was an incredible project and experience to be part of. A lot of procurement, and we did see them at risk. It was very fun to do. I wanted to be more of a business manager at that point. I was in the support role as an assistant business manager. And that's when I stepped in. I went to Northborough Southborough. And Northborough Southborough, I was there for about 9 months. Unfortunately, my timing wasn't great with Northborough Southborough. They had just come off of a significant fraud. About $500,000 was embezzled by their accountant in-house. I like change and kind of constant improvement within the processes. They were frozen in place. They just couldn't change or do anything. It's completely understandable, but wasn't a great fit for me, and that's why I kind of, at that point, was looking somewhere else. That's when I went to Norton, and Norton was a great experience. Very different school district from your Concord-Carlisle. Certainly they did rely a lot on residential tax base versus any kind of commercial tax base, and their residential is much lower than homes in Concord. But that was a great time. I met Dr. Marcus at that time. He came to work for Concord, and I really did, at that point, become that. I really started to branch out and go into the schools, and that's where I said, oh, this is great. Like, I can go out, I can spend a couple hours with the kids, remind myself why I'm doing this, then go back and really crush into those numbers, into the operations, and figure out how to make things better. We bootstrapped a lot in that district. We found money where money didn't exist. Learned how to do more with less was our mantra, and we just kept moving forward. From there, went to Dedham. Dedham was a fun experience as well. My first year, there was 2 superintendents. One retired halfway through the year, and the second superintendent was an interim. I liked Dedham, but was not aware that they would have us out 12 to 15 nights a month in meetings. I have kids at home that I kind of like, I'd like to see them every now and again. So it just didn't, it wasn't working, and the burnout was getting to be something intense, being out all those nights. So I went to Norwood, and that was a short-term, an intern position. Again, stepping in, they had some financial questions that were going on at that time. Their business manager had left mid-year, so I got to dive into a district and like really, at a very short term, December 4th, I was there. I started my budget presentation 2 days later. Had to really learn what was going on pretty fast. Dug into that. We did a great job. We were able to really bring up public sentiment and get everyone understanding, be a lot more transparent with the budget we brought forward, because we were asking for more money in Norwood than they wanted to give to us. They were very fixated on a 4%. We needed about a 6-7% to survive, and we were able to convince them. It was through transparency, honest conversations, and just making ourselves available. Norwood was about an hour and a half commute through, down Route 9, Route 20, the Pike. It was not great commuting. I wasn't moving. I was just kind of sitting there for an hour and a half. So I lived in Marlborough, and I jumped into Marlborough, had an opening. I stepped into that Marlborough position. First year was fantastic in Marlborough. I was able to get a 9.22% budget increase, the largest increase they'd had in decades. We had to do that because we had settled some very significant collective bargaining agreements before I came on board. So we owned that. We had to make sure we could fund it. So getting that communicated out to a very different, it was a city style of government. So communicating that out wasn't as easy. It was, you had to get to your city council members, work with the mayor and try and figure out how you could communicate that. But we were able to be very transparent with them, make them understand why we needed those monies. So the second year in Marlborough, the goals started to shift considerably with a new superintendent. Those goals didn't completely align with what I was trying to do as a business manager. So I've kind of moved on from Marlborough. Went and I've done 2 months with the Wellesley Municipal Light Plant in finance, and realized very quickly, I miss kids. It's quiet, like there's no sound that happens there. Just sit at the computer and type away, and I'm not hearing desks crashing on top of my head, or screaming coming down the hallway, or even getting any kind of interaction. So I need to get back into schools, and this was a great opportunity. It was serendipity that you called me when you did, because I was sitting there saying, I've got to figure out how to get back into schools, and the text came in, and I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. Let's have a conversation. So.
Excellent.
Do you have any questions?
You live in Marlboro or Hudson?
I live in Hudson now. I was living
Okay.
in Marlboro. I just recently moved into Hudson, so.
That's about hour and a half, hour.
Today was an hour and 20 minutes, but there was an accident right around the pike that kept me from very slow. We weren't moving at all, and then the residual carried all the way down to
I
Franklin.
do it every day.
The other day when I left here, it took me about an hour, so it's not too bad.
Okay.
Great time to make phone calls.
People need to know too, Ryan,
Yep,
sorry,
well, that's right,
Ryan,
yeah, yep.
that this is a consent, that the actual hiring is by the superintendent.
Yes.
And we just give our agreement, our consent to it. It is his hire.
Yes.
I think the
Yeah.
public needs to understand that.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
why
you.
this is a little different.
Yeah, right, that's why, so it's a consent to approve
Yeah.
this appointment. Yes, Mr. Boyce?
Mr. Wells, we have the complete FY27 budget done by next Wednesday.
Oh, that's what I was told. I have until Wednesday to get
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
good, good.
I literally told
Messaging
Matt
is
today.
across the board.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Ms. Niffen?
I just wanted to point out for the people at home that you are certified for school business administration.
That's
So-
correct,
And
yeah,
that is a DESI license.
DESI license
Right.
for
Which
school
is-
business administration, as well as superintendent,
Yep.
assistant superintendent.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right, any other, Ms. Blackman?
Motion to approve,
So consent?
To the
Is
to the
that
appointment.
what-
Second the consent?
Okay, all right, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of granting consent? Okay, unanimous.
Welcome
Thank you,
aboard,
Mr.
Mr.
Wells. Thank
Wells.
you, welcome.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yay.
And you start tomorrow?
He's starting now.
He's going right upstairs now.
Get him a Chromebook.
Yeah, yeah.
Get him
All
a
right.
Chromebook.
Yep, get him a Chromebook. All right, we have a field trip approval, Whitman-Hanson Regional High School DECA State competition.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
You missed the vote, Stephen.
My hand's up.
Okay, there we go. It's unanimous now, Jen. You can put that down as unanimous. Okay, so now we're moving on to approval of meeting minutes, November 25th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor? All right, thank you. And the same, January 7th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? All right, okay. Now we're going into subcommittee reports. We just had budget subcommittee. But I don't know if, Mr. Ruffey, is there anything that you feel like Dr. Marcus didn't cover in his budget update from our budget subcommittee that we want to add to the committee?
No, just if anyone's curious at home, we will also have another budget subcommittee meeting next Wednesday at 5 before the public hearing.
Yes.
Told you.
Yeah.
You said it the other day that you were going to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that Dr. Marcus covered a lot of the stuff most of the stuff that he covered in our budget sub, he covered here. So I'll spare everyone my voice for that. All right. We have warrant subcommittee, Ms. Blackman.
Sure. So I did type up something really fast and handed that out, and it is available on the screen also if anybody is interested. So warrant subcommittee, one of the things we did was we determined the charge of the committee, which we need to present to the full committee for approval. The School Warrant Subcommittee functions as the public oversight for the use of public funds in pursuing a public good, that of public education, and ensuring that the spending of the budget is in support of the district goals and policies. The procedure for the Warrant Subcommittee will be to meet every 2 weeks, or additionally if necessary, to review all warrants. Regular warrants include payroll, food services, and accounts payable. Review includes comparing invoices with amounts stated, requesting clarification as necessary, and reporting to the full committee total balance of warrants signed each period, as well as answering questions the full school committee may have. So, I think we covered that as generically, but as specifically as possible. So, does anybody have any
That's great.
thoughts or concerns, or
So do we need a motion to approve the
the charge?
the charge?
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Boyce, do you have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Ralphie. Okay, any discussion? Oh, Mr.
Yeah, well, I just want to ask Stephanie, had this been something that, I don't know. I'm going to say DESI, but I should be saying mask. Is it something that they say is good to go, or you need something like this? I mean, I like it. I do like it.
Thank you. Mask did not have any recommendations.
No, okay.
Everyone I've talked to, or most people I've talked to, did not have any exact knowledge, including when I asked Mr. Hyde if they knew what a warrant subcommittee exactly was supposed to do. So apparently we are breaking ground here. But I do think that we serve an important purpose. We do spend a lot of time going through the warrants and the invoices and asking a lot of questions, which I'm sure people want to pull their hair out with some of the questions we ask, but we're trying to make sure that the spending is focused on the students and maintaining the buildings and such. So, so this was kind of something that we pulled together, and we just want to have something. Every subcommittee, just FYI, every subcommittee is supposed to have a charge that they present to the full school committee, so that we know what the scope is and all of that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of the charge? Okay, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Payroll warrants that we signed on our December 24th, 2025 meeting was $1,651,834.85. The following time on the 8th of January was $1,585,475.56. And the last one that we had on the 22nd was $1,682,631.15. I'm going to just say, it does vary from, you would think pay periods should all be the same. That's not the way that they work, because we have different people that come in for different periods of time and different, clocks and such. The food services warrant, I only have the number for the 22nd, because that's when we decided how we were going to start doing this. So for food services warrant that was signed on the 22nd was $65,671.43. Accounts payable warrant that was signed on the 22nd of January was $547,000. $547,349.56. And then today, we signed a middle school building project warrant for $2,500,000. So.
Okay.
Any questions about any of that?
Okay. Oh, yeah, Ms. Diffin.
And this is more like a general question about meeting times. So you met today?
It was an emergency one.
Well, we met today at 9:30.
Okay, so that's my question. Who's coming to a meeting at 9:30 in the morning? Don't we want these meetings? And I would ask the same about the policy 10 a.m. meeting. I understand we all have busy schedules. I understand as much as anybody that we all have busy schedules, but the point of our policy subcommittees and what we've been talking about, or what I've heard people talking about over the last few months, is community engagement and transparency. And I think having meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock in the morning is doing the opposite of that. And I have concerns about how that might backfire on, I think the warrant subcommittee is a little bit different because I'm not sure people are actually coming to those meetings. However, they might, and I think it's a little concerning when there are meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning because there is a population of people who are not able to attend that. And we all know that there is value in attending a meeting. We always say you can watch, but there's a lot more value in attending a meeting, particularly if there's an agenda item that someone might have an opinion about for public comment. So I don't know how that will, that's just feedback I have.
Can I just, for the policy one, this is totally my fault in that
I'm not blaming anybody.
No, like, I'm gonna take the blame. The reason that the policy was at 10 a.m. and it's a one-time thing, and the reason was that we scheduled a policy meeting for today at 5 o'clock, and then there was a budget sub at 5 o'clock, and Ms. Blackman was very generous in saying, well, we could, because she and I both are available during the day, we can move her during the day, so I didn't have to miss the budget sub, and because it's only Stephanie and I that are on the policy.
Right.
So that was just a one-time thing, and it was, we wanted to, not, because there's so many, as you will see as we get to Ms. Blackman's policy subcommittee report, there's so much work we need to do.
Yep.
We didn't want to take the week off from it, so that was just a one-time thing. So that will not be a regular thing in terms of that. That was just a one-time thing to accommodate, because at the last budget subcommittee meeting, it was determined, which I think is accurate, that it was probably really important that we met before tonight, and before the 4th, so, but we had already scheduled policy, so Ms. Blackman agreed to do it. It's just a one-time thing, so to do that, it won't be, they'll be at the regular time at 5 o'clock going forward from now on.
And Ryan had offered to move our policy meeting to next Wednesday before the budget thing, and I said, I think budget's might want you instead then. As far as the warrant subcommittee, there's no, the main reason that we meet during the day is because that way we can add answers to questions from the people that are in the building.
Sure.
If there is concern about that, then, certainly happy to move it. At this point, and I don't know whether Ryan wants to address this or not, but it's Mrs. Stafford and myself, and Ryan is subbing in because Ms. Hill had to step off of the committee. So the other thing that I'm going to just bring up, which no dig and all on anybody, but some of, like Ryan and I are on a lot of committees. So between negotiation meetings that happen and now policy and warrant and, budget and everything, it is hard to find time for us to be at all of these meetings and also do our regular jobs and have family lives. So that was basically it. But yes, the policy subcommittee was a one-off. The nice thing is that anything that we recommend comes before the full committee at the meeting anyway, so people are very welcome to get up and speak before anything gets voted through. We're just making recommendations.
And I also say that what we did, the work we did today, because we knew that we weren't going to have, because usually George and Nikki join us for these to help us, we picked, we looked at policies that really just needed updating on the legal updates. So we weren't doing anything that was like, I don't want to make it seem like, again, doing things that, at 10 o'clock in the morning makes it seem like we're hiding something. We did the most boring ones today for that reason, just so we could get them done, because we knew we weren't going to have them there. But your point is well taken, and I do feel really strongly that we want community engagement at these things. So it was not an intent to hide anything. It was an intent to get some boring stuff done.
Yeah, I agree. In the warrant one, we really wouldn't have anybody on it because we're just looking and comparing. So there's really any discussion is really any questions we have, and then we go and ask. So it's a little bit different, and that's why it's kind of hard to be called a warrant subcommittee because it's not a type of committee that's
you're not discussing and making
because we don't discuss the other than okay, do you know what this is for? Do you know what that's for? That type of thing. So.
But your point is well taken, Hillary. I do appreciate it. So anything else, Stephanie, on the warrant?
Not on the warrant.
Okay. So we're going to go to the interim superintendent search subcommittee. We don't have a chair of sorts, so I guess I'll just kind of just give people the update. So we have two community forums scheduled. The first one is tomorrow night at the Conley Elementary School at 6:30. And then we have a second one at Hanson Middle School on Monday at 6:30. I do want to clarify too that even though they're in different towns, anyone can go to either one. We wanted two, and we decided to put them in two different towns to be, so to be, centrally, located for people. But if people, are, if Whitman people, for example, are tied up tomorrow night, they can come to the one at Hanson Middle and vice versa. And they're just two different forums on two different nights. We'll also be, Sean Costello's going to be doing one for the staff as well that will be announced to the staff in a couple weeks. Well, it'll be in a couple weeks, it'll be announced to the staff. And that'll be a little bit different just because we want to make sure that is private and confidential in a way that obviously the community ones aren't going to be. The community ones are also going to be not broadcast live, but recorded by WHCA and put on so people that can't go are able to watch and see what was said, and also for the community members can watch it and see as well what the community has to say about our interim future interim superintendent. And also I would just say too, to anyone that can't attend either of those forums, they can certainly email us at our school committee email address and, with their thoughts if they're unable to attend those forums. So again, tomorrow night, Conley School at 6:30, and Monday the 2nd at 6:30 at Hanson Middle School. All right. Whitman, any questions? Oh, I just kind of trying to get us through everything. All right, thank you. Whitman Middle School Building Committee, Ms. Stafford?
There's not a lot to update. Everything is going very well. The building is coming along, and I would hope that pretty soon, when the weather gets a little bit better, that we can have the school committee come on a tour. I would really like to have the whole school committee come and see what's going on. I finally got to go. It is unbelievable. It is. I can't believe how fast they work. It's amazing. When we had the topping off ceremony in June, and then to go in, and I'm seeing the library, I'm seeing the theater, the auditorium, with the incline, and they're already doing the walls on the 3rd floor, windows in. It's really amazing. It's going to be an amazing building. So hopefully we'll schedule a time. I know at our next building committee, the building committee is going to go on their second tour in the February meeting at 4 o'clock before our actual scheduled meeting, because it's been a few months that the committee has been, so we want to see the difference, what they see in a few months, the changes that's going. But everything is still on schedule, and I don't want to say it, but a little under budget. So
Excellent.
I didn't want to say it really loud, but so far so good.
Mr.
So
Boyce.
that's a nice thing that you're coming into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Boyce?
And our February meeting is...
At the middle school.
Yeah, the school vacation week. Is it?
No.
No, the week after. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I even confused myself, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I think that's the 24th, I think?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then we'll go to policy. Any other questions for Ms. Stafford on the building committee? Okay. Policy subcommittee, Ms. Blackman.
Okay, so Mr. Trestle and I met today. We covered BBBA/BBBB.
You don't have to read them.
We covered a bunch. We're going to be forwarding our recommendations to the full committee. I would say 90% of them are probably just adding Mass General Law stuff. There's a couple that Mask had kind of consolidated 4 into 2. So we'll be forwarding those to you guys for reading items, but I also didn't want to overwhelm with reading items. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, February 11th at 5 p.m. We'll be discussing a bunch of different things, including like agenda format and, some of these as we're going through, Nikki and George are fantastic at giving us a lot of historical context for why some of these things happen the way they do. We're looking at masks recommendations, but also understanding that we're a unique entity, so we're not just blanket, taking their things, their suggestions, not all legal, but the legal ones, obviously, we want to make sure we're updating. And then the first meeting of the Policy Advisory Group is scheduled for February 11th at 6:30. So Mr. Trestle and I will be going from the Policy Subcommittee to the Policy Advisory Group. And we're going to do introductions so everybody gets to know each other, discuss how we want to work the group. We're going to discuss the online learning policy because that was something that we talked a lot about last time, and I'd like to get input from them so that we can get back to the superintendent quickly with some responses on that. I'm going to let them give us input as to other policies that they think we should consider reviewing, and we'll come up with a meeting schedule. So that's it for my report. I don't know if anybody has any questions about any of that. And then the other thing is there were several policies that were reading items for the full committee. I don't know if anybody has any questions about those. This is the second reading. We can take another week and do a third reading, or if anybody wants to motion to waive the third reading, we can discuss that too, so.
Yeah, I motion to waive the third meeting and bring these to a vote.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Do we need to have them as an action item to be voted on, or, I mean, how will we have this list?
So can we waive the third reading and then put it on the next agenda for a vote?
Just a vote? Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that we don't have to go through the third reading thing. So we'll waive the third.
So,
Yeah.
well, you gotta vote for the waiver.
Yeah, we gotta wait for the, yeah, so.
So put it in as an action item next time.
We'll put it as an action item next time to vote on it, but can we have, so we have a first and a second, all in favor of waiving the third reading? Okay, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. What?
Thank
What was it?
you.
You didn't? Oh, Mr. Ralphie was a no. Okay.
You have an extra week to read it further, and then we can discuss.
Jason, would you just mind, I just want to double check, did anyone sign up for public comment at the end?
No, there's no public hearing.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure, in case someone was hiding behind a pillar I couldn't see. Okay, all right, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.